evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, right here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the Midlothian region of southeast Scotland. And of course, Scotland is the capital of literally everything. Literally. We dominate, we are the boss, we are in charge. I'm kidding. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a great week so far. It's been a good one for me. It's been nice and chilled out. I've had my wife here for today, and she's here tomorrow as well, and then she's working across the next 7 days. So it's been nice to have her around for a wee bit, which has been pretty cool. And the kids are back to school, so it has otherwise been nice and quiet around here as well. So anyway, that's kind of me. That's all my news. I don't really have a lot to tell you other than my lights wouldn't work. And I was having a wee panic and kind of thought I'm going to have to do this show in the dark. But no, we're good. I don't know what the issue was, but something tripped the lighting circuit and it is now fixed. I'm not an electrician, but I managed to resolve it. We have lights. Everything else worked. It was just the lights that didn't. So, so we're okay though. But anyway, welcome one and all. We have only a few people here. We only got like 12 people here, but we got 10 likes, which is great because we've only just started the show. So thank you, everybody. So the first one in the door was Ron Figura, and he has a question which is in 3 parts, which we'll get to in just a wee minute, followed by Billy Morgan and Just Bob, who is stuck at work, he says, gonna miss most or all of the show. He says, sorry, we'll watch the replay. Last Wednesday was a cool show. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you a lot. And I do believe you emailed me a question, which I think is actually for a Sunday night show. Let me just go and double check your question very quickly, just to be sure. Yes, it is a Sunday Night Live question. Yes. I wasn't making it up. So anyway, he's here, and Mike Johnson is here over in the Philippines. He is on a drunken escapade. Okay. He says, I haven't been able to make it to one of these in a while due to the time difference in the Philippines. Yes. For me, it is midnight, and for you, it's like early in the morning. So it's probably breakfast time for you over there, Michael. But I hope you're all right, mate, and I hope you are still having a great time over there and enjoying life on the tropical paradise that is the Philippines. And we got Stephen Wilson here as well. We got Brett Marla, and we got Cal Trusiak and his typical dry wit, which I enjoy very much. And we got Mark, that's Spin 180s here as well. And we got Paul Morgan, we got Daryl Harrison, we got John Hawk, we got Dwayne552 and Don Oliver. And we've got my friend Keith over at Radio Tuck Frumpet is here as well. So we got a decent turnout. We've got 18 people here, which is awesome. So if you have a songwriting question or a question about music theory or arranging or composing or improvisation or harmony, melody, rhythm, those kind of questions. You've got questions to do with any of that, arranging techniques, stuff like that, get them into the chat. If you are not subscribed, the chat will not be available to you. It is in subscribers only mode, which means if you want to ask a question, then you'll need to subscribe to my channel. Please do that first, and once you have done that, give it 2 minutes. Literally, it's only 2 minutes. And then the chat will be available to you and you can ask your question. And I would love to take your questions. That's what this show is primarily about. Occasionally we do some deep dives into some topics as well. For those of you that have not been here before, we do some deep dives into various different topics. We've done a series on melody writing. We've done a series on harmony as well, and writing, counter melodies and things like that. So we've done that just this year, and we will be continuing to revisit those kind of things, and we'll look at some rhythm stuff as well. which is going to be good fun to do. Looking forward to that. And of course, using Notion. I'm going to be using Notion a little bit more as well. Now, I know there's a good number of you here that don't read notation. That's fine. You don't have to be able to read notation to get into Notion, even though it's a notation program. You'll learn as you go. Trust me, I will be guiding you as we go, so that you learn by osmosis how this notation thing works. Even if your primary thing is mixing and mastering, you're not really a songwriter, you're not really an arranger, you're not a composer or anything like that. You're a mix engineer, and that's your passion. It's always good to have these things in your toolkit. Why? Because it will make you a better mixing engineer. It'll make you a better mastering engineer. Because if you understand how the building blocks of music work, you will be able to enhance those with your mixing techniques and your mastering techniques. And you'll understand form and structure of music, and you'll understand the difference between major, minor, happy, sad, bright, dark, thick texture, thin texture, different timbres, and all that kind of thing. And if you know all of those kind of things, you have some grasp and some knowledge of those things, then you will be a much better mixing engineer. And of course, if you have some notation experience and some notation understanding as well, you'll have a better grasp on arrangements as well, which is going to help you with mixing again. Because let's say you're in a position like Kyle has been recently, where he was mixing a big band chart. And he actually found, I think through talking to him, if I recall correctly, Kyle, you can correct me on this, but if I recall correctly, one of the things you learned was actually to become familiar with the charts, so you know when which instruments are taking up lead, which instruments are playing backing parts, and being able to do automation between the two to balance those things out, and melody, counter melody, and those kind of things, call and response that takes place in a big band chart. So if you have some notation understanding and some understanding of music theory and some arranging techniques, then automating those things and enhancing those things in the arrangement is going to make your mix really stand out and really pop, which is what you want to be a well-rounded mixing engineer. So even if you're a mix engineer, shows like Songwriting Simplified are going to help you out, because the idea is we simplify things down to their bare bones basic essentials, so that you can understand the basic building blocks. All right, let's go through. Billy Morgan says you can find Jonny's other videos here, and he's directing people to my channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Carl says, I want the answer to the question. Well, the answer to that particular question, Kyle, is 42. I'm pretty sure you know that one. All right, so let's go and take a look at Ron's question, because it's quite a good one, this one. He says, this is kind of related to songwriting. I want to bring some stereo mix downs of some cover songs to play along with. I want to record my playing as MIDI. There will be some pitch bend information generated as I play. Then I want to turn that track into notation using Notion. Does Notion display the pitch bend data in the notation? That's a great question. And the answer to this is both positive and negative. Okay? Now, if you are doing pitch bends, bending up and bending down, particularly with guitar notation, there is some standard symbology that you would use for pitch bends up and pitch bends down, and all other things in between. You can adopt those symbols for synth pitch bends. I don't see any problem with that at all. A lot of synth players may not understand what they are because they come from guitar notation, but you can explain that pretty simply. So let's get into doing this. You can do this in the score editor in Studio One. This is one of the things that was updated in Studio One 6.5, by the way, some of the things that we added to the score editor. So this is pretty cool. So I'm going to go over to a song that I've got open, and we're going to delve into this a wee bit. All right, so we've got a blank brand new song here. Now, here's the thing. When you're doing pitch bends for an instrument that supports the articulations, as in key switches, as in sound variations for pitch bends, like on a guitar, you can get these to work really quite nicely. However, if they don't have that, then playback might be a bit of a thing. However, if you're recording, let's say, a synth lead, for example, so let's do that. I'm not going to do it this way. Let's delete. There we go. Let's delete that. And then what we'll do is we'll grab the click and we'll make sure that this is on with a pre-count. And I've got Lead Architect open right here. I maybe don't like this particular sound. Let's try this one. There we go. This is a little bit more Chick Corea-like. And we all know what Chick Corea Electric Band 1980s. Lots of pitch bends. So... stuff like that is pretty familiar to fans of Chick Corea. So we will do something much simpler than that, just to make it more interesting. I don't know why that's gone like that, but there we go. All right, so we'll just do a really simple little thing, and then what we'll do is where we've got pitch bends in, we'll put those into notation. Now, you will see that the pitch bend information is in the track. So if I go to pitch bend, you can see where the pitch bend took place. It's all there. But the thing that you will not see is if I go over to here, you'll see that there is, let's play this. Yeah, that notation is a bit sloppy. So what we'll do is we'll do a Control A, and pretty much everything there was eighth notes. So let's put that in there. Let's see if that tidies up the notation, which it does. All right, so you'll notice that there's no pitch bend information. Well, the interesting thing is that there are a whole bunch of these in this little menu here. Now, this is all for guitar, so it's fine. But we can kind of fudge it a little bit. So we can go. So and then another one there. And then right at the end there, we have a release string right at the end. All right, so this is kind of fudging the notation a little bit because you don't get this in regular notation except with a guitar. However, one thing we can try, if I mute this, if we go to presence, and if we grab a guitar, and if we go for a Telecaster, and we go for a nice full sounding Telecaster, and for this we will probably want a little bit of ampire. So let's go and grab some ampire. I like a bit of ampire. And we'll find something that's good for leads. Let's go with this. We'll shut that off. We'll put this one on. So we can do something like this here. Shouldn't that last note go up to the F? Yeah, the last note did go up to the F. You can see there's a pitch bend there. But the note that I actually pressed was the E flat. Okay? So I pressed the E flat and I bent it a full tone. But the bend doesn't actually get written in that respect. So this note here does not become an F. Because I'm holding down, technically I'm holding down the E flat with the pitch bend up to semitones. So that's why it stays on the E flat. Okay? So let's go back to this dude over here. And we will see if we can come up with something similar, but a bit more guitar-like. Something like that. All right. So again, we can put in these articulations. And there's all sorts of these articulations as well. But what we want to do is we want to figure out where our bends are. So that first note is definitely bent. So let's go for our bend there. And here, this one is, I'm not quite sure what this one is. Maybe a whammy bar down at the end. Something like that. Okay. Then you got these sound variations, but there aren't any score symbols for these ones. But yeah, you can input your pitch bends. It's not quite the same thing as them appearing automatically, because that's not how the score editor works. The score editor will at the moment, as it is, what the score editor will do is it will enter notation based on what you actually play. And the pitch bend information appears in here and in the pitch bend automation lane here, but it won't actually show up in the score automatically. You will need to put this in if this is kind of critical information for what you're doing. If it's not critical information and you just want to kind of leave it to the discretion of the performer, then you can leave all of this stuff out. But one of the things you can do is you can apply a staff preset here, and we could just go with a bit of a guitar. And you can see here, even in the tab here, you've got the all of that pitch bend data that I just put into the score. You've got it here in the tab as well. All right. So if these are critical pitch bends and you need these to be notated for a guitar player, then yeah, it's easy enough to do. John says it's something a guitar cannot do just by bending strings with fingers. A whammy bar would be needed. Yeah, a whammy bar would be needed, which is why I put a whammy bar in here. But some of these bends can be done with fingers on strings. But that one at the end is definitely a whammy bar bend, for sure, which is why I put the whammy bar down symbol on here. Full show. But yes, the notation does pick up the when you play, it does pick up the notation and it knows what notes you've entered. And then all you need to do is just make sure you stay as close to the click as you can, and then you can quantize it. Now it does sound a little bit robotic on playback on quantize. If you do a lot of quantizing, you can end up with a lot of robotic playback. However, it will make the score nice and neat and tidy. And there's various things you can do in this action menu here as well, if needed. But yeah, one of the updates that we added to Notion to Studio One 6.5 rather was the pitch bend data in the tablature for guitar, as well as in the notation as well. Billy says, "Oh, grab the headstock and pull." Yes, for sure. I have done that on my bass. Like if I'm playing a harmonic on my fretless bass, I can slide the harmonic, and it's nice and smooth. There's no frets to worry about. But if I want to bend in a particular way, then I would play the harmonic and then I'd just pull the headstock, either that way or that way. It does put the issue with that is it can put the instrument out of tune, but so can a whammy bar, and that was one of Jimi Hendrix's big problems. Was he was doing a lot of whammy bar activity to get lots of really big intervallic bends. Unfortunately, it put the guitar out of tune. So when he got to the end of the tune, he'd have to tune up his guitar again. So yeah, that's the downside of whammy bars. So yeah, Ron, that kind of sort of answers your question. So your question here is, there'll be some pitch bend information generated as I play. I then want to turn that track into notation. Does Notion display pitch bend data in the notation? Automatically, the answer is no. Can you add it after the fact? Yes, and you can do that in the score editor. And cool thing about the score editor is we've got this in continuous view just now, but if we put this into this more this more obvious part orientation, you can print this out. You can just hit this print icon and select your printer, and away you go. And you can print it to PDF. Or you can save, when you do print to PDF, it saves it as a PDF file, and then you can email that to your guitar player. So, I mean, for example, stuff like this. If this was a Chick Corea kind of chart, where there's lots of bends, because that was the thing that Chick Corea did in the 80s, lots of bends. And so guitar players were having to do lots of bends. People like Frank Gambale and Scott Henderson were having to do lots of bends just to keep up with playing unison lines with Chick on his keytar synth thing. So, yeah, a lot of this stuff would have to be notated out. All right, let's see. Yeah, Ron says that will work for now. Yes. Now, if you're doing a lot of pitch bends over a long period of time, like a 6 or 7 minute song, then yeah, you're gonna have to go through, find them all, and notate them. Either doing pitch bends up or down, and you can, if it's a downward pitch bend, use the whammy bar symbol. Like I did here. This is a whammy bar down symbol, and then there's one for up as well. And you can determine the interval here, so that's like a half step. So you can do whatever it needs to be. Let's see, anything else on this issue? Excuse me. Anything else on this issue whilst I've got this open? I'm not seeing anything come through yet. But yeah, the score editor is very powerful in Studio One. And essentially it is Notion written on the Studio One codebase is essentially what this is. So what you're looking at here is Notion on the Studio One codebase. And we've added quite a lot, and we're only really just getting started. There's a lot more to come. A lot more cool things that will be added to the score editor in due course and over time. All right, so there you go. I hope that helps. Back over here for a bit. All right, anybody got any other questions? We are halfway through the show. John says, do sound variations show through to the score? Sound variations do, yes. I think. Certainly different articulations, I believe, do. Let's go back to that song and we can just double check that to be absolutely certain. So let's go and delete all of that out of that electric guitar part. And we'll change the instrument. And we'll go for, let's say, let's go for violins. Violin full. So it depends on the instrument, to be honest. So let's just open this up. Oh, for some reason it didn't delete any of this stuff. I wonder why that was. Weird. Anyway, apply track preset, strings, solo violin. There we go. All right, so we should be back to normal now. So if I was to write in, hang on a minute. I forgot to remove Empire. There we go. Let's extend this out a little bit. All right, so we've got our little phrase here. Let's turn the click off. Make sure that's correct. Yeah, it is. So there are a few sound variations. There aren't very many. So let's go to the sound variations thingy here. And let's go and edit it, and let's go with and then of course you can select different notes here. So we've got sustain here. apply sound variation. And these ones will go and that one be sustain. Then we'll finish with a crescendo. Yeah, for some reason these ones didn't get. Let's put these on a different articulation, a different sound variation. Let's go for a bit of tremolo. Why not? Okay, that one hasn't really worked, so let's change that one. I should put that one back to sustain. And then this one will change to crescendo. Yeah, I don't know why that one's not crescendoing. Strange. Okay, so so all of those sound variations, if we go over to the score, you see they're not there. So sound variations do not appear. However, articulations do. So if we go back over here, let's go back to the beginning. And we want these ones all to have the same articulation. So we right click these and we go articulation. We go staccato. Okay. And then those ones should all have the, there we go. So these ones are all going to have tremolo. Wait, I didn't want to do that. So let's select those. Let's right click these and we go articulation. And we'll go 2 slashes. Like that. Now if we go back over here, you'll notice that those articulations are now in the score. All right. So to make this sound even more kind of natural, let's go over to the cymbals and we're going to stick in some phrasing here. So we'll do that one there. Do that one there. And then that one to there. I imagine if I stretch that last note out, that crescendo might actually happen. That crescendos, that crescendo just doesn't work. I don't know why. So let's change this one to just back to sustain. Now the cool thing here is, oops, I did not mean to do that. If we go back over here, we can now also add some dynamics in here. So we could start with, let's say mezzo piano. And then when we get to here, we can change our dynamic to forte, which means loud. So mezzo piano means slightly quiet. So not quiet, slightly quiet. So it's a little bit louder than quiet. And then forte means loud. And then we can make this even louder. We can go for forte, forte, fortissimo, which basically means very, very, very loud. All right. So what we have here is, what Studio One will do is when it plays back, it will interpret these dynamic symbols as different velocity levels. And so that's what you'll hear when it plays back. All right. Now, at the moment, as it stands, if I was to put hairpins in here to do crescendo, which means to make it get louder gradually, they don't play back at the moment. But hopefully in the future, that will be something that will be changed. Okay, so, yeah, I know, it doesn't come across very well with just one solo instrument. So, let's see, there is a question here. What plugin is this? Comes with Studio One. Yes, this is just Presence. This is just Presence, and it's from the strings section and from violins. And I've used violins full. Now, there are different individual articulations here, like crescendo, legato, pizzicato, staccato, and tremolo. But the one I used was violin full, which basically should include all of those. All right. Now, I could have used something from the PSO here. I could have used maybe the violin section, which has, I think it has a few more articulations. Yeah, in fact, it has a lot more articulations and a lot more key switches, aka sound variations. So if we went to some of these, in fact, all of these are now just changed because I changed the instrument. Yeah, so I need to change these. 1 second. So let's go with sustain. And these ones will be staccato. And then this one we will do as legato. And the same for this one. Legato. Then these ones, I'll change this one up a little bit and I'll have those one as pizzicato. And then this one will apply a, we'll see if this crescendo works. That crescendo works. Now, you'll notice there, what happened with the pizzicato. It's hilarious. The reason why that happened is because if we go back over to our score, we've still got these tremolo articulations. So let's get rid of those. Seeing as we're not using those anymore. So now when we play this back, we get that nice crescendo at the end. All right, so all of this is in the score editor that comes with Studio One. Now, what I just did there was I changed the instrument to the violin section from the Persona Symphonic Orchestra, which, by the way, is an add-on, okay? It's not standard with Studio One Professional. This is an add-on which you can buy from Sweetwater, or if you're in Europe, you can get it from Thomann or Gear for Music. I know those three suppliers are definitely doing these, so you can buy them and you can download and install them, and they will work perfectly. I've had this for a long time because I beta tested the Persona Symphonic Orchestra, so I've had this since like 2017, I think, when it launched. I did a whole video series, by the way, on the Persona Symphonic Orchestra, so if you're not familiar with that and you'd like to learn a little bit more about the PSO before you think about maybe buying it, if you're interested, then check out my Persona Symphonic Orchestra series, which I did years ago in Studio One version 3. Maybe I should update that series and demo it again in Studio One 6. It's essentially the same, it's just I'm just using an older version of Studio One back then, compared to what I'm using now. Alright, so if you're a member of Studio One Plus, you can get this right now. It's in your account already. You just need to just go down and install it. If you're not a member of Studio One Plus, then Sweetwater, Thomann, or Gear for Music, those are the best places to go and get add-ons for Studio One for the moment. Seeing as currently the shop.personas.com is closed, whilst it is being revamped and made more useful and beautiful, because shop.personas.com has been around for a very long time and it's built on a very old platform that doesn't really work very well anymore. So that's why temporarily closed. Hopefully in the very foreseeable future it will reopen, probably on personas.com, I would think, seeing as Studio One upgrades and all of that are you purchase those now directly inside personas.com, so the main website. So yeah, I would imagine that that's kind of the future, but I don't know for certain. And I'm not just saying I don't know for certain. I actually don't know for certain, because I don't work in sales and I certainly don't work in marketing. So I have no idea what those people get up to until like the last minute in some cases. But yeah, they are pretty awesome people, and they work very hard at making all of the Personas and Studio One software experience as smooth and as excellent as possible. One of the things that we needed to do was we needed to revamp the shop as a matter of urgency, because it was on an old platform that's no longer fit for purpose. So that's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of why all the add-ons are no longer available, unless you're a member of Studio One Plus. If you're a member of Studio One Plus, they're already in your account. That's why that's happened. It's not because we've suddenly just gone, oh, they're now, they're now, it's the only way you can get them. You can get them through third-party sellers. You just can't get them on our own platform. But if you're a member of Studio One Plus, they're already there. They're already in your account. You can just download and install them. So that's the story with that. Carl has to run. Enjoy your run. Have fun. I used to enjoy running as well, and I know that it's just a turn of phrase you're using there, but yes, I used to love running. Unfortunately, I can no longer do it. Can it detect hammer on and hammer off? It doesn't detect any of that stuff as you play it, because it doesn't know. But there are symbols to denote hammer on and hammer off. We go back over to the symbols. If you look in this little menu here, this menu that says H, and the tooltip says other. If I click on this to open that, you'll see that there's hammer on, pull off, guitar tap, and then there's various string numbers as well, which can be useful for guitar. Not particularly useful for violin, because there are not 7 strings on a violin. But yeah, there's hammer on, pull off, and tapping as well. And then in this one over here, there's finger, thumb picking, different picking techniques and styles. And then these ones are specific to violin. So we've got arco, pizzicato, color length notes, sol ponticello, sul tasto, playing behind the bridge, down bow, up bow, and Bartok pizzicato, which is a particular playing technique developed by Bartok. playing with the mute and playing without the mute. So all of these are kind of violin and strings specific instructions there. And then, of course, in this section here, you're not going to have a whammy bar on a violin, but you've got all of these for string bending, pre-bending, releasing, holding, bending and release, pre-bend and release, whammies, and then vibratos, wide vibrato, normal vibrato, whammy bar vibrato, that kind of stuff. Those won't work on this, okay? They just won't work. And then you've got glissandi as well. So we can do a glissando. If I change that last note, we could do a glissando. So if I put that up there, then we can do a little glissando like that. I don't know how well this is going to come across with the articulation we chose. Maybe we should change this crescendo to legato instead. I did it again, didn't I? Let's see how that comes out. Yeah, that's not really a glissando at that tempo. Let's remove that. Let's see if it'll do a portamento instead. Because portamento is a bit more of a glide. So let's try it from there. Yeah, it's actually doing it in stepwise motion instead. If I made this into a half note, and then let's delete that, and then let's stick in another half note. That might work. The 7-string gent violin coming soon to a music deal near you. That's funny. Use the tie bar on it as well. Probably could pull the slur. Yes, we probably could actually. Let's get rid of that guy. Or what we could do yeah, that didn't really work. Yeah, that didn't really work either. Kind of doing it like a scale. I don't know why it's doing that, but that's okay. Let's see. Keith says, is it just me? But every time I hear these Italian terms, I feel like they come with an accompanying rude Italian hand gestures. I think that might just be you, but that's okay. All right, so there you go. A little brief tour over what you can do with the score editor and sound variations and what shows up in the score, what doesn't show up in the score, what plays back and what does not play back. But that's where we stand at the moment. Like I said, the score editor and the sound variations are still a work in progress. More improvements to come in the future. So if notation and Studio One and having notation built into Studio One is your passion, is something that you're really interested in, stay tuned, because things are going to get exceedingly cool in the future. That much I can tell you. Anyway, we got 4 minutes left to go. So if you guys have a question that you'd like to get in that might be like the last question of the show, then please do feel free to get that in right now, and I will do my very best to answer it. Let's see, what else do we have here? Billy says if Kyle's running, something big chasing him. Yeah, possibly. There we go. Anything else, folks? I know that there is a wee bit of a delay, so I will have a swig of tea whilst I'm waiting. And if I don't see any questions come in, then that's fine. That's good. But I hope that this has been useful and helpful for you. Like I said, you don't need to know notation to get anything out of this. Like I said, some of these things you now know that you did not know before. Like you did not know what mezzo piano means. Mezzo piano means slightly quiet. It's not quiet, it's slightly quiet. And forte means loud, and if you add more F's to that, it gets very loud. And it gets louder and louder, okay? Equally, if you have P, which stands for piano, which means quiet, and you add more P's to that, then you're basically saying very quiet, very, very, very quiet, incredibly quiet, so quiet it's barely audible. Okay, so that's the dynamic range that's available in notation, from exceedingly quiet to exceedingly loud, and different instrument libraries will respond to those in different ways and at different levels. It depends upon the number of velocity layers, and it depends upon how those velocity layers are coded and how smooth the transitions between samples are as to how good they come across. For example, with the PreSonus Symphonic Library, there are a number of velocity layers, and there are a number of articulations, and there are a number of sound variations, and you know, the moving between the samples is relatively smooth, considering it's only a $100 sound library. You get a full orchestra for $100, and at that price point it's actually pretty good. Is it the world's greatest sound library for an orchestra? No, it's not, and it doesn't pretend to be. It does not pretend to be world class like Spitfire or East West or Vienna Symphonic. It doesn't pretend to be that. It doesn't try to be that. It is a low budget but good sounding orchestra that you can blend with other instruments and make it sound really good. Perhaps use a pitch bend on a violin. Yeah, maybe. Or turn it into a mono source. It could be the polyphonic setting on the instrument that is giving you the stepwise gliss. No, I don't think it's that at all. Actually, it's not that. It's the articulations. And the other thing is that instrument tracks are stereo by design. And this is Presence XT. Okay, so it's by design it's stereo. You can't turn an instrument into a mono source. Doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Aurora's Boring Alice says $100. I am game. Yes, it's really good for $100, and you may find that certain retailers will allow you to purchase it in installments. So if money's tight, $100 is kind of a little much for you, but you would still like something like the Persona Symphonic Orchestra, you might be able to pay it off in 3-month installments or something like that. Some retailers do that, some don't. Some have that for hardware things only, but not software. So it's worth seeing if they do have that kind of a deal for you. But yeah, it's awesome. I really like it for the budget level it is at, and the price point it is at. It is very good, and I do use it. I blend it with other things, but I do use it. So, I mean, there have been other songs of mine that I have, I've actually demonstrated on this show, where I have actually used, I'm just trying to find one of them right now. In fact, Souffrere, the piece that I did for the Halloween thing, the Halloween challenge, remember that, where we did like a whole piece in, what was it, Locrian flat 6, B Locrian natural 6 was the scale that Rich chose for everybody to do the piece. Well, I used pretty much everything out of Presence, and I used the strings, my God, the strings from the Persona Symphonic Orchestra for that. And they actually sound pretty good, and I used the percussion from that same orchestra as well. And then I layered it up with choir sounds and Mai Tai, and also my kettle at the back there to simulate the volcano erupting. I basically took that, I recorded that, pitched it down an octave, ran it through a bunch of weird sounding plugins, and made it sound like a volcano. And it actually came over quite well, actually. But yes, so they actually do sound pretty good. And with that, folks, we are at the end of the show. But before you go, I'm going to give you a preview of a song of mine that I wrote maybe 15 years ago, nearly. And I basically decided to resurrect it, because now that we have Lead Architect as a new instrument inside of Studio One, I thought, you know what, the sounds for that are so 80s, and this song that I wrote has such an 80s vibe. I thought, you know what, I've got to give it a go. So this is kind of an instrumental version of it. It's not finished yet, but it's kind of thereabouts, almost done. I've got to add a few more bits of horn section detail, but maybe I will play you out with just a wee snippet of this, and then when it's all finished up, I'll let you hear the whole thing at some point. So if you permit me to be a little bit self-indulgent, I'd appreciate that. Billy is going to do an after show Zoom, so if you want to join him there, then we'll all pile over there after the show. But I will play you this before we close out the show. Yeah, you'll see I've not actually done the synth solo yet. Yeah, Chris, I think you're thinking of Baywatch there, aren't you? All right, folks, there we go. That it was hang on, there we go. This song was originally written for a collection of children's songs. So this does actually have lyrics, but the idea for this song was, well, the concept for the whole album was it was children's songs, and it was in celebration of I think the 50th, might have been 50th anniversary of the moon landings for, Apollo 11 and all of that. And so a bunch of us songwriters got together and we made this record. So there's I think there's 10 songs on this record, all about space and all designed for kids to learn about space travel, space flight, and the Apollo missions and all of that. So this was written in honor of the Apollo 11 mission, and I called it Roaring Rocket because it's aimed at very young kids. So, but given the chord changes and the melody, you're probably thinking it's not aimed at kids at all. But there you go. All right, so that's us done. It sounds a bit like a theme song for a kids show. I guess it kind of does. It's a little bit lengthy for a theme song, but yes. I hear that. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. Make sure you have hit that like button and subscribe button and all of that other fun stuff. And I will see you all on Sunday for Sunday Night Live at 6 p.m. Central, the normal time. And be there or be rectangular. Good night.